The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower gleamed with the kind of sterile perfection that came from unlimited corporate budgets. Sarah Chin adjusted her laptop for the third time, though it didn't need adjusting. Her hands needed something to do besides shake. "Relax," her husband David whispered, leaning close enough that she could smell his cologne, the expensive one she'd bought him for their 10th anniversary last month. "This is just a meet and greet with a new CEO. Standard protocol." Sarah nodded, smoothing down her navy blazer. As the director of operations for Meridian Tech's West Coast division, she'd been through dozens of executive transitions, but something about today felt different. The energy in the building had been strange all week, ever since the announcement that the company had been acquired by Chin Industries, no relation to her, despite the shared surname. The irony wasn't lost on her. "I still don't understand why Amanda needs to be here," Sarah said quietly, glancing across the table to where Amanda Foster sat, flipping through her phone with studied disinterest. Amanda was David's executive assistant, a position she'd held for 2 years. She was young, blonde, impeccably dressed, and apparently essential to every meeting David attended lately. "She has all my notes," David said, his tone clipped in that way that meant the conversation was over. "She's been working on the Henderson account presentation. It makes sense for her to be here." Sarah bit back her response. This wasn't the time or place. But she'd been biting back responses for months now, since she'd first noticed the way David's eyes lingered on Amanda, since she'd seen the late-night text notifications, since she found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket that he'd explained away as a client dinner that ran late. She wasn't stupid, but she also wasn't ready to blow up her marriage without proof. Not when they had a daughter starting college next year. Not when their entire social circle was intertwined. Not when the thought of starting over at 43 felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. The conference room door opened, and Marcus Webb, the VP of Business Development, strode in with his usual self-important swagger. "Morning, team. Big day. Big day." He took his seat at the head of the table, a power move, since technically they were all peers. The new CEO should be here any minute. From what I understand, they've been doing a deep dive into all our operations this week. Sarah's stomach tightened. A deep dive could mean anything from a friendly review to a complete restructuring. In acquisitions, people lost their jobs. Departments were consolidated. Redundancies were eliminated. "Do we know anything about them?" asked Patricia Okoye, the CFO, who sat to Sarah's right. Patricia had been her closest ally in the company, one of the few other women in leadership who understood the particular tightrope they all walked. "Chin Industries has been very tight-lipped," Marcus said. "All I know is the CEO has a reputation for being ruthless but fair. They've turned around 3 companies in the last decade, all of them bigger than us." "They?" Sarah asked. Marcus shrugged. "I don't even know if we're dealing with a man or woman. The board's been weirdly secretive about the whole thing." The door opened again, and this time everyone fell silent. A woman entered, late 30s, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly salary, with an air of absolute command that filled the room before she'd spoken a single word. She was followed by 2 assistants carrying tablets and looking like they'd run through fire if she asked. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice smooth and precise. "I'm Victoria Chun, CEO of Chin Industries and, as of Monday, CEO of Meridian Tech." She was stunning in an understated way. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun, eyes that seemed to catalog everything and everyone in a single sweep of the room. When her gaze landed on Sarah, something flickered across her face too quickly to read. "I'll keep this brief," Victoria continued, moving to stand at the head of the table. Marcus quickly vacated the power seat, and Sarah noticed a slight smile that touched Victoria's lips. "I've spent the last week reviewing every aspect of this company. Financials, personnel files, project outcomes, client relationships. I believe in being thorough." She pressed a button on the remote in her hand, and the large screen behind her lit up with a presentation slide. Meridian Tech has strong bones. Good products, solid client base, talented employees. But there are inefficiencies, redundancies, and in some cases, ethical issues that need to be addressed immediately. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sarah saw David shift in his seat, and when she glanced at him, his face had gone pale. "Over the next few weeks, we'll be implementing changes," Victoria said. "Some will be structural. Some will be personnel-related. I'm meeting with each department head individually this week to discuss specifics." Her eyes found Sarah again. "Ms. Chun, I'd like to start with operations. Can you stay after this meeting?" "Of course," Sarah managed, her professional voice steady even as her mind raced. Was she being fired? Promoted? Investigated? Victoria nodded. "Mr. Foster," she said, and David's head snapped up. "You and Ms. Foster," she gestured to Amanda, "will meet with me in HR at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Please ensure you're available." The way she said Ms. Foster made it clear she knew exactly who Amanda was and what her relationship to David might be. Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. "The rest of you will receive calendar invitations for your meetings," Victoria concluded. "I look forward to working with those of you who will be continuing with the company. That's all." She gathered her materials with crisp efficiency, and the room slowly emptied, everyone murmuring to each other in hushed, nervous tones. David left without meeting Sarah's eyes, Amanda trailing after him like a shadow. When the room was empty except for Sarah, Victoria, and Victoria's assistants, the CEO nodded to her team. "Give us the room, please." The assistants left without a word, closing the door behind them. Victoria sat down in the chair next to Sarah. Not across from her, Sarah noted, but beside her, as if they were colleagues rather than CEO and subordinate. "Sarah Chun," Victoria said, and now there was warmth in her voice that hadn't been there before. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." "Have you?" Sarah heard herself ask. Victoria smiled. "You don't remember me, do you?" Sarah studied her face, searching for recognition. There was something familiar about her, but she couldn't place it. "I'm sorry, Stanford, 2003. We were both in Professor Mitchell's advanced economics seminar." The memory surfaced slowly, then all at once. Victoria Chun, but she'd gone by Vicky back then, had been quieter, more uncertain. They'd been study partners for a semester, had spent hours in the library working through problem sets and debating theory. Then Victoria had left school suddenly in the spring semester, and Sarah had never seen her again. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. "Vicky, you left. I tried to find you, but you completely disappeared." "Family emergency," Victoria said, and something dark passed across her face. "My father had a stroke. The business was going to collapse without him, and I was the only one who could step in. I was 20 years old and suddenly running a manufacturing company with 200 employees. I had no idea. No one did. I didn't have time to explain to anyone." Victoria leaned back in her chair, regarding Sarah with an expression that was hard to read. "I followed your career, though. You've done well. Director of Operations at 39 is impressive, especially for a woman in tech." "Thank you," Sarah said automatically, still reeling from the revelation. "You've obviously done more than well yourself." "I learned fast. Had to." Victoria paused. "I'm going to be direct with you, Sarah, because I remember you as someone who appreciated directness. Your division is the most efficient in this company. Your team retention rate is the highest. Your projects coming on time and under budget, and your client satisfaction scores are off the charts. You're the kind of leader I want to build this company around." Relief flooded through Sarah, so intense it made her dizzy. "Thank you. I thank you. But," Victoria continued, and the word hung in the air like a guillotine blade, "there's a problem, and I need to know if you're aware of it." Sarah's relief curdled. "What problem?" Victoria pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen was a financial report, rows of numbers highlighted in red. "Your husband's apartment has been bleeding money for 18 months. Projects over budget, timelines missed, clients dropping their contracts. But somehow, his performance reviews have been glowing. He got a 30% raise last quarter." Sarah stared at the numbers, her mind struggling to process. I didn't know any of this." "No, you wouldn't. Your departments don't overlap, and he's been very careful about who sees what information." Victoria swiped to another screen, this one showing expense reports. Hotels, restaurants, a concerning number of late-night charges. He's also been using company funds inappropriately, taking his assistant on business trips that don't seem to have much business attached to them. There it was. The proof Sarah had been simultaneously searching for and dreading. All laid out in spreadsheets and receipts, undeniable. Miss Foster's been complicit, Victoria continued, her voice gentler now. She's helped falsify reports, covered for missed meetings, and from what I can tell, has been in a relationship with your husband for at least a year. A year. Sarah had suspected for months, but hearing it confirmed, hearing the timeline, she felt like she was falling even though she was sitting perfectly still. I'm telling you this now, before the meeting this afternoon, because you deserve to know, Victoria said. And because I need to understand something. Did you have any knowledge of the financial irregularities? No, Sarah said firmly, finding her voice. None. I run my department completely separately. We have different budgets, different teams. I had no idea he was. She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Victoria nodded, seeming satisfied. That's what I thought, but I had to ask. In acquisitions, we need to be sure there's no collusion between partners. Partners. The word felt like a joke now. What happens to him? Sarah asked. At the meeting this afternoon? He'll be terminated. So will Ms. Foster. The financial irregularities alone would be enough, but combined with the inappropriate relationship and the falsified reports. Victoria shook her head. I can't have that kind of liability in my company. I'm also recommending the board pursue legal action for the misappropriated funds. Legal action. Criminal charges, possibly. Sarah thought of their daughter Emily, about to start at Northwestern. She thought of their house in Pacific Heights, the one they bought when David got his promotion 5 years ago. She thought of the life they'd built together over 16 years of marriage, now revealed as a structure built on sand. I'm sorry, Victoria said, and she sounded like she meant it. I know this is personal for you. If you need time... No, Sarah interrupted. No, I need to work. I need to think about something else. She looked at Victoria directly. What did you want to discuss about operations? A slight smile crossed Victoria's face. I want to expand your role. Senior Vice President of Operations, overseeing not just West Coast, but all regions. 40% salary increase, full executive benefits package, and a seat on the restructured board. Sarah blinked. I don't understand. You're good at what you do, Sarah. You build teams at work. You create systems that last. That's rare. Victoria stood, gathering her materials. Think about it today. We can discuss details tomorrow. But I wanted you to know where you stand before the afternoon becomes complicated. She moved toward the door, then paused, looking back. And Sarah, I'm sorry this is happening to you. But I've learned something building companies. Sometimes the structures we think are holding us up are actually holding us back. Sometimes they need to fall, so we can build something better. Then she was gone, leaving Sarah alone in the conference room with the morning sun streaming through the windows and her entire world rearranged. Sarah didn't go back to her office. Instead, she found herself in her car, driving aimlessly through the city, Victoria's tablet still in her bag with all the evidence of David's betrayal downloaded onto it. Victoria had insisted she take it. You'll need it for the lawyers, she'd said. Lawyers. Divorce. Single motherhood with a college-age daughter. All the things Sarah had sworn would never happen to her. Not after watching her own parents' bitter divorce when she was 12. She ended up at Ocean Beach, parked in a lot overlooking the Great Pacific. It was foggy, the way it always was in San Francisco in the morning, and the cold seeped into the car despite the heater running. She felt numb, disconnected from her body, like she was watching all of this happen to someone else. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. Where are you? We need to talk before the meeting. She almost laughed. Now he wanted to talk. After a year of lies, after parading his mistress around the office, after risking both their careers with his recklessness, now he wanted to talk. She didn't respond. Another text, this one from Patricia. Emergency drinks after work? Her Victoria's not messing around. Also, Marcus is losing his mind. It's entertaining. Sarah typed back, "Definitely. I'll text you later." Her phone rang. David. She watched it ring through to voicemail, then ring again. On the third call, she answered. "Where are you?" His voice was strained, panicked. "Sarah, I need to talk to you right now." "I'm not at the office." "I can see that." "Where are you?" "It doesn't matter." "Sarah, please." "This meeting with the CEO. I think something's wrong. I think someone's been feeding her false information about my department. I need you to help me figure out who." The audacity was almost impressive. "False information?" "Yes. The numbers she's looking at, they don't tell the whole story. Someone's trying to sabotage me, and I think it might be Marcus. You know he's been after my position since." "David." Sarah's voice cut through his rambling like a blade. "I saw the reports. Victoria showed me everything." Silence on the other end. "Then what did she show you?" "The expense reports. The falsified project reviews. The hotels." She paused. "How long, David? How long have you been sleeping with your assistant?" More silence. Then quietly, "It's not what you think." "That's what you're going with?" "It's not what I think." Sarah felt something crack open inside her, something hot and furious that she'd been keeping locked down for months. "I saw the receipts, David. I saw the pattern." "A year," Victoria said. "A full year of lying to my face." "Sarah, I never meant for it to happen. It just—" "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't you dare tell me it just happened. You made choices. Over and over, for a year, you made the choice to betray me. You made the choice to risk your career, my career, our family. For what? For her. She understands me in a way you haven't for years," David said, and there was anger in his voice now, too. "You're always so focused on work, on being perfect, on doing everything right. Amanda she's easy. She's fun. She doesn't make me feel like I'm constantly failing." Sarah laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "So this is my fault? I made you cheat because I worked too hard? Because I took my career seriously? That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying, David? Please explain it to me." "I'm saying our marriage has been over for a long time, and you know it. We've been going through the motion for years. At least I was honest about what I needed." "Honest?" Sarah's voice rose. "You were sneaking around behind my back. You were stealing from the company to fund hotel rooms with your mistress. Nothing about that is honest." "Keep your voice down." "Why? Afraid someone will hear? Afraid it might affect the meeting this afternoon?" Sarah felt reckless, dangerous. "You're going to be fired, David. Victoria has all the evidence. The board is probably going to press charges for the misappropriated funds. Your career is over." "You're lying." "I wish I was." Another pause. When David spoke again, his voice had changed, become calculating. "If you help me, if you tell Victoria that the reports are wrong, that there's been some kind of mistake, she'll listen to you. You're her peer. You have influence. Are you seriously asking me to lie for you? After everything? I'm asking you to remember that we have a daughter, that we have a life together. If I lose my job, if there are criminal charges, Sarah, think about what that would do to Emily. Think about what it would do to you. To me? You think your reputation won't be affected by this? You think people won't wonder if you knew, if you were involved?" His voice was venomous now. "We're married. Our finances are tangled. If I go down, you go down with me." Sarah felt cold. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you the reality of the situation. We're in this together, whether you like it or not. Help me, and we can both come out of this okay. Maybe even save the marriage if you're willing to work on things." "Save the marriage," Sarah repeated flatly. "The marriage where you've been fucking your assistant for a year. Jesus Christ, Sarah, when did you become so crude?" She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. She sat there in her car, staring out at the ocean, and tried to figure out when exactly her life had become unrecognizable. Her phone buzzed again. Not David this time, but calendar notification. CEO meeting, David Foster and Amanda Foster, 2 p.m. It was 1:30 now. She put the car in gear and drove back to the office. Part 3, The Reckoning. Sarah didn't go to the meeting. She wasn't invited, and she had no desire to watch the carnage firsthand. Instead, she went to her office and did something she'd been avoiding for months. She went through her personal files, her shared documents with David, looking for the extent of the damage. It was worse than she'd thought. Their joint accounts showed withdrawals she didn't recognize. Their investment portfolio had been partially liquidated without her knowledge. David had forged her signature on the forms. Their home equity line of credit had been maxed out. He hadn't just been stealing from the company. He'd been stealing from their family. Sarah was still staring at the numbers, feeling sick, when Patricia knocked on her office door. "Can I come in?" "Please." Patricia closed the door behind her and sat down, her face grave. "Marcus just came out of a meeting with Victoria. He's been demoted to a non-management role. He's threatening to sue for wrongful termination, but from what I hear, she has him dead to rights on harassment complaints from his team that HR buried." Jesus. It gets better. Remember Jennifer from accounting? The one who quit last year supposedly to pursue other opportunities? Patricia made air quotes. Turns out Marcus drove her out after she rejected his advances. Victoria's already reached out to her about coming back at a senior position. Sarah shook her head. She's not messing around. No, she is not. Patricia hesitated. Sarah, there's something else. I heard David and Amanda are in with her and HR right now. And I'm sorry, but I heard it's bad. Really bad. I know, Sarah said quietly. Victoria told me this morning. Showed me everything. Patricia's eyes widened. You knew? And you're here? Sarah, if I were you, I'd be... Where? Home? We both know he's going to come home eventually, and I don't want to be there when he does. Sarah laughed humorlessly. I don't even know if I want to go home at all. Stay with me tonight. Patricia said immediately. Daniel's out of town for work. I have guest rooms. Bring whatever you need. Patricia, I'm serious. You shouldn't be alone right now, and you definitely shouldn't be alone with him. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Thank you. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Patricia said, For what it's worth, everyone in leadership knew something was off with David. The numbers didn't add up. His team was miserable, and he and Amanda were obvious. But no one wanted to be the one to say anything. Why not? Because he's your husband. Because it would be awkward. Because people don't want to get involved in messy situations. Patricia shook her head. I should have said something. I'm sorry I didn't. It's not your fault. Still, you deserve better from all of us. A knock on the door interrupted them. One of Victoria's assistants poked her head in. Miss Chen? Victoria would like to see you in her office when you have a moment. Sarah and Patricia exchanged glances. I'll be right there, Sarah said. When she arrived at Victoria's office, the corner suite that used to belong to the old CO, she found Victoria standing at the window, looking out over the city. She turned when Sarah entered. Close the door, please. Sarah did. The office was impressive, all modern lines and expensive art, but Victoria hadn't personalized it yet. It still had that sterile, just moved-in feeling. I wanted to update you on the meeting with your husband, Victoria said, without preamble. He and Miss Foster have been terminated, effective immediately. Security is packing up their offices now. They'll be escorted from the building within the hour. Sarah nodded, not trusting herself to speak. He threatened legal action, Victoria continued. Said he'd claim wrongful termination, discrimination, that you and I conspired against him because of some personal vendetta. She smiled slightly. His lawyer is going to have a very difficult time making that case stick, given the evidence. He called me this afternoon, Sarah said, asked me to lie for him. Said if I didn't, my reputation would be damaged by association. Victoria's expression hardened. Did he threaten you directly? Not in so many words. But the implication was clear. I see. Victoria moved to her desk, pulled out a folder, and handed it to Sarah. This is for you. I had our legal team put it together this afternoon. Sarah opened the folder. Inside was a separation agreement, already filled out, with David's financial information clearly detailed. Every withdrawal, every forged signature, every misappropriated fund. You'll want your own lawyer to review it, Victoria said. But I wanted you to have the ammunition. And Sarah, the company will provide legal support for you in the divorce proceedings. We take care of our own, and you're one of us. He's not. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because I remember you, Victoria said simply. I remember you in that study group. How you always made sure everyone understood the material before moving on. How you'd stay late to help people who were struggling. You were kind in a place that didn't reward kindness. She paused. And because I built my career by identifying the people who make organizations work and the people who damage them. You're the former. David is very much the latter. I feel like an idiot, Sarah said. Everyone knew. They all saw what was happening, and I was just oblivious. You weren't oblivious. You were trusting. There's a difference. Victoria sat down on the edge of her desk, her posture more relaxed now. Can I tell you something? The reason I had to leave Stanford, the real reason, my father didn't just have a stroke. He had a stroke because he'd been embezzling from his own company to fund a gambling addiction. When I took over, I found out we were 3 months from bankruptcy and the FBI was investigating. Sarah stared at her. I had no idea. No one did. I spent 2 years quietly fixing it, paying back what he'd stolen, restructuring everything. My mother left him. My sister stopped speaking to me because she thought I was being cruel by not letting him back into the business. It was the worst period of my life. Victoria's voice was matter-of-fact, but Sarah could hear the old pain underneath. But it taught me something. You can survive the unraveling. You can build something new from the wreckage. Sometimes the wreckage is necessary. Your father, is he okay now? He died 4 years ago. Never gambled again after the stroke, but the damage was done. Victoria shrugged slightly. We made our peace before the end. That's all you can ask for sometimes. Sarah looked down at the folder in her hands. Evidence of her husband's betrayal, yes, but also evidence of her own strength. She'd built a career, raised a daughter, managed a team of 40 people, all while her marriage was crumbling around her. She'd done all of that. David hadn't made her successful. If anything, he'd been an obstacle she'd succeeded in spite of. The SVP position you offered me, Sarah said. Is that offer still on the table? Victoria smiled. Absolutely. Then I accept. I want to get started as soon as possible. Good. We'll make the announcement next week, after HR finishes the restructuring. Victoria stood. In the meantime, go home. Pack whatever you need. Take some time. You've earned it. I don't want time, Sarah said. Time just means sitting around thinking about everything I lost. I want to work. Sarah, please. Work is what I'm good at. Work makes sense. Let me throw myself into this. I need to. Victoria studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but promise me you'll take care of yourself too. Eat, sleep, talk to someone if you need to. I will. As Sarah turned to leave, Victoria called after her. Sarah, for what it's worth, you didn't lose anything worth keeping. And what you're about to build, it's going to be extraordinary. Part 4, the aftermath. Sarah did go to Patricia's that night, but only after a brief, brutal encounter at her own house. She'd timed it carefully, arriving home at 7 when she knew David would be there. When he'd had time to process what had happened, but not enough time to lawyer up, she found him in his study, surrounded by boxes. He'd already started packing. When he saw her, his face twisted with anger. You knew, he said. You knew what was going to happen, and you didn't warn me. Why would I warn you? Because we're married. Because you're supposed to be on my side. Sarah set her purse down on his desk, deliberately calm. I stopped being on your side when you started sleeping with Amanda, when you started stealing from the company, when you forged my signature to drain our accounts. His face paled. You went through our finances? Of course I did. I had to see how bad it was. She pulled out her phone, showed him the screenshot she'd taken. You liquidated our retirement accounts. You maxed out our home equity line. You spent $60,000 in the last year on hotels, restaurants, and gifts. $60,000, David, on your mistress. I was going to pay it back. How? You just lost your job. And for what Victoria said, you're probably facing criminal charges. He stood up suddenly, knocking his chair back. This is all her fault. That bitch came in here with her agenda, trying to make herself look good by taking down the old guard. Stop, Sarah said sharply. Stop blaming everyone else. You did this. You made these choices. You destroyed your career. You destroyed our marriage. And you did it all for what? For someone who's probably going to turn on you the second things get difficult? Don't talk about Amanda like you know her. I know enough. I know she helped you falsify reports. I know she's being fired too. I know she's not going to stick around when you're broke and facing legal problems. David's laugh was bitter. You'd love that, wouldn't you? You'd love for me to lose everything so you can feel superior. I don't need to feel superior, David. I am superior. I have a job. I have my reputation. I have a daughter who still respects me. Sarah picked up her purse. I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Don't fight it. You can't afford to, and you won't win. I have everything documented. Emily's going to hate you for this. Emily's going to hate you, Sarah corrected. I'm not the one who broke up this family, and she's smart enough to know that. She walked out, and this time, she didn't look back. Part 5, 3 months later. The restructuring at Meridian Tech happened faster than anyone expected. Victoria moved with surgical precision, cutting waste, promoting talent, rebuilding systems that had calcified under the old leadership. Within 6 weeks, the company's stock price had jumped 20%. Within 8 weeks, they'd signed 2 major new clients who'd been considering competitors. Sarah threw herself into the work. As SVP of Operations, she was responsible for coordinating all regional offices, standardizing processes, and building the infrastructure for the company's expansion plans. She worked 12-hour days, sometimes longer, and fell into bed exhausted each night. It was better than thinking. The divorce was moving forward. David's lawyer had tried to fight it first, demanding spousal support, claiming Sarah had conspired with Victoria to destroy his career. But when Sarah's lawyer presented the evidence, the falsified reports, the misappropriated funds, the affair, David's position collapsed. He was facing criminal charges now, and his primary concern had shifted to staying out of prison. Amanda, Sarah heard through the office grapevine, had immediately found a new job at a competitor, and a new boyfriend, a VP at her new company, married with 3 kids. Some patterns, apparently, were hard to break. Emily had taken the news better than Sarah feared. She'd been angry at first, yelling at both her parents for ruining everything right before college. But after Sarah showed her the evidence, after Emily understood the extent of her father's deception, she'd gone quiet. Then she'd hugged her mother and said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry he did this to you." They were closer now than they'd been in years. Emily called her several times a week from Northwestern, telling her about classes and friends and boys. Sarah felt like she was rediscovering her daughter, and maybe discovering who she was as a person beyond being someone's wife. On a Friday afternoon in early spring, Victoria appeared at Sarah's office door. "Got a minute?" "Always." Sarah gestured to the chair across from her desk. They'd fallen into an easy working relationship over the past months, with regular meetings and strategic sessions that felt more like collaborations between equals than traditional boss-employee dynamics. "I wanted to check in on you," Victoria said. "I know the last few months have been intense." That's one word for it. "How are you doing?" "Really?" Sarah considered the question. "I'm okay. Some days are harder than others, but I'm okay. The work helps." "I'm glad. You've been incredible, Sarah." The regional integration ahead of schedule, client satisfaction up 30%, employee retention at an all-time high. Victoria smiled. "You're making me look good." "That's my job. That's my job. Still, I wanted you to know it's notice." Victoria pulled an envelope from her bag. "This is for you. Don't open it now. Wait until I leave." Sarah took the envelope, puzzled. "What is it?" A thank you and an investment in your future. Victoria stood. I have something else to tell you, and I'm not sure how you're going to take it. Okay. I ran into David last week at a coffee shop downtown. Sarah felt her stomach clench. Did he say something to you? He tried. Want to complain about how unfairly he'd been treated, how his life was ruined. Victoria's expression was unreadable. I told him that his life wasn't ruined. It was merely reflecting back to him the consequences of his choices, that he could wallow in self-pity or he could figure out how to rebuild with integrity. What did he say? Nothing useful. But Sarah, I need you to know, I didn't destroy David's career because of you. I didn't even destroy it because of the affair, though that certainly didn't help. I destroyed it because he was a bad leader who was damaging the company. If he'd been your best friend instead of your husband, the outcome would have been the same. I know, Sarah said, and realized she meant it. She'd spent the first few weeks after David's firing wondering if Victoria had been too harsh, if there had been some way to handle it differently. But the more she learned about how badly David had mismanaged his department, how many employees he'd driven away, how much damage his incompetence had caused, the more she understood that Victoria had made the only choice she could. Good, Victoria said. I need my SVP to be clear-headed, especially since I'm about to make your job more complicated. How? We're acquiring another company, bigger than this one, and I want you to lead the operations integration. Victoria grinned. Think you're ready? Sarah felt a thrill of excitement. Absolutely. After Victoria left, Sarah opened the envelope. Inside was a check, a performance bonus that made her gasp, enough to cover Emily's tuition for the year with plenty left over, and a note in Victoria's handwriting. You rebuilt yourself into something stronger. Time to build something new. V. Sarah sat there for a long moment, holding the check, feeling the weight of everything that had happened and everything that was still come. Then she picked up her phone and called Emily. Hey, Mom. Her daughter answered, sounding happy. What's up? I just wanted to hear your voice, Sarah said, and tell you that I love you. I love you, too. Are you okay? Yeah, Sarah said, surprised to find it was true. Yeah, I really am. Part 6, 6 months later. The Meridian Tech Annual Gala was always held at the Fairmont, but this year felt different. Under Victoria's leadership, the company had transformed. Revenue was up 45%. They'd successfully integrated 2 acquisitions, and they'd been named one of the top tech companies to work for in the country. Sarah stood near the bar, watching the crowd. She bought a new dress for tonight. Emerald green, elegant without being flashy, and for the first time in years, she felt comfortable in her own skin. The divorce had been finalized last month. David had signed everything without protest, probably grateful she hadn't pushed for him to face additional charges beyond what the company had already pursued. He'd taken a job at a small startup in Sacramento, a significant step down from where he'd been. Amanda, Sarah had heard, had already moved on to her 3rd company and 4th married boyfriend. Some people never learned. You look happy, Patricia said, appearing at her elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. It's nice to see. I am happy, Sarah said, accepting a glass. Is that weird? Should I not be happy yet? You should absolutely be happy. You've earned it. Patricia clinked her glass against Sarah's. Plus, did you see Marcus over there? He's networking like his life depends on it. Apparently, his new non-management position isn't as fulfilling as he'd hoped. Sarah glanced over and saw Marcus, indeed working the room with desperate energy. She felt a pang of something, not quite pity, but an acknowledgement of shared humanity. They'd all been knocked down in different ways this year. Some people got back up with grace, and some people just kept falling. Sarah Chun, a voice said behind her, and she turned to find James Reeves, the CEO of TechVision, one of their new clients. I was hoping I'd run into you tonight. I wanted to thank you personally for the work your team did on our integration. Flawless execution. Thank you, James. That means a lot. I mean it. Victoria told me you were the best in the business, but I'll admit I was skeptical. Too many people talk a good game. He smiled. You're the real deal. If you ever decide you want to change the scenery, I hope you'll give me a call. He handed her his card, and drifted off into the crowd. Sarah looked down at the card, feeling a small thrill. 6 months ago, she'd been worried her reputation would be damaged by association with David's disgrace. Now, she was being headhunted, making friends. Victoria appeared beside her, stunning in a black gown that probably cost more than Sarah's car. James Reeves just tried to poach me. Of course he did. You're brilliant. Victoria sipped her champagne. But you're not going anywhere, right? Not a chance. I'm exactly where I want to be. Good. Victoria looked out at the crowd, then back at Sarah. Can I tell you something? Always. When I came back to Bay Area to do this acquisition, I looked into the leadership team before I ever set foot in the building. I saw your name and thought, Sarah Chun from Stanford? Couldn't be the same person. But I looked you up, saw your picture, and I knew. Victoria paused. That's when I decided to go through with the deal, because I knew if you were here, there was something worth saving. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Victoria, I'm not saying I bought the company for you. That would be insane and bad business. Victoria grinned. But knowing you were here, it made me confident the foundation was solid, that there was integrity in the organization, even if some people were doing their best to undermine it. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just keep being excellent at what you do. Victoria raised her glass. To rebuilding. To rebuilding, Sarah echoed. They stood there together. Two women who'd taken different paths from that Stanford seminar room 20 years ago, but had somehow ended up in the same place, watching over an empire they were building together. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Mom, just got an A on my econ final. The one I was worried about. Professor said my analysis was exceptionally mature, smiling face with smiling eyes. Sarah smiled and texted back. I'm so proud of you. That's my girl. Another text came through, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Hi, this is David. I know we're not supposed to be in contact, but I want to say I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything. I hope you're doing well. You deserve to be happy. She stared at the message for a long moment. 6 months ago, this would have destroyed her, would have opened up all the wounds she'd been trying to heal. But now she just felt nothing. The anger was gone. The hurt had scabbed over. David was just someone she used to know, someone who'd taught her painful but necessary lessons about who she was and what she wouldn't tolerate. She deleted the message without responding. Everything okay? Victoria asked. Yeah, Sarah said. Everything's perfect. Epilogue, 1 year later. Sarah stood in front of the mirror in her new apartment. A sleek 2-bedroom in Soma with views of the bay. She'd sold the Pacific Heights house in the divorce settlement and bought this place with her own money, decorated it with her own taste. No compromises, no negotiations. Just her making a space that felt like home. Tonight was the launch party for the new division she'd been building. Meridian Global Operations. They'd opened offices in Singapore, London, Sao Paulo, and Sarah had overseen every detail. It had been the most challenging year of her professional life, and also the most rewarding. Her phone rang. Emily. Hey, sweetheart. Aren't you supposed to be in class? It's office hours. I'm allowed to skip. Emily sounded excited. Mom, I got the internship. The one at Chin Industries. Sarah felt her heart leap. Emily, that's amazing. When did you find out? Just now. Victoria's assistant called me personally. Emily paused. You didn't have anything to do with this, did you? Because I want to earn it on my own. I swear I didn't. Victoria and I have a strict policy, no nepotism. If you got it, it's because your application was strong. Okay, good. I mean, not good that you didn't help, but good that I got it myself. Emily laughed. I can't believe I'm going to be working for Victoria Chun. She's like a legend. She is pretty incredible, Sarah agreed. You know what's funny? A year ago, if someone had told me that Dad would be out of the picture and you'd be this badass executive and I'd be interning at $1 billion company, I would have thought they were crazy. Emily's voice grew softer. But I'm glad it happened this way. I know that's weird to say, but I am. You're happier now. I can tell. I am happier, Sarah said. much happier. After they hung up, Sarah finished getting ready. The dress she'd chosen for tonight was bold, a deep crimson that made her feel powerful. She'd stopped dressing to fade into the background, stopped trying to make herself smaller to make other people comfortable. The launch party was at a rooftop venue overlooking the city. When Sarah arrived, the party was already in full swing. Clients, employees, industry leaders, all gathered to celebrate what they'd built. Victoria found her almost immediately. There she is, the woman of the hour. I thought you were the woman of the hour. Please, I just signed the checks. You did all the real work. Victoria handed her a glass of champagne. I have news. The board approved the expansion plan. We're moving into 3 new markets next year, and they want you to lead it. Sarah felt a surge of excitement. Seriously? Seriously. You've proven you can build something from nothing. Now let's see you do it again. I'm in. I know you are. Victoria smiled. You know what I realized the other day? That study group at Stanford, the one where we met, there were 8 of us. I looked up what everyone's doing now. 4 of them are in middle management. 2 dropped out of the workforce entirely. 1 is selling insurance in Nebraska, and we're running a multi-billion-dollar company. Sarah finished. Exactly. We're the ones who didn't give up when things got hard. We're the ones who rebuilt when everything fell apart. Victoria raised her glass. To the ones who rebuild. To the ones who rebuild, Sarah echoed. She looked out over the party, at the company she'd helped transform, at the team she'd built, at the future spreading out before her like an open road. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Broken, humiliated, convinced her life was ending. That woman would barely recognize who she'd become. Sarah Chun, divorced, single mother, senior vice president of global operations, smiled and stepped into the party, ready for whatever came next. Because she'd learned something crucial in the past year. She didn't need someone else to validate her worth. She didn't need a marriage to define her. She didn't need permission to be extraordinary. She already was. And the best part? She was just getting started.